dementia prevention. We're diving deep today.
Fascinating topic.
We've got this YouTube video excerpt, right, with Dr. Jordan Peterson and Max Lugavere, who's he's a big brain health researcher. And get this, Lugavere's whole journey into this field started because of his mom.
Yeah. His mother started showing signs of Lewy body dementia pretty young, actually, in her late 50s. And
wow.
And yeah, that experience really kind of pushed him to figure this stuff out, like what's going on and what can we do?
Right. I mean, talk about turning a personal tragedy into a mission.
He went from journalist to a respected researcher in the dementia field.
Really?
Yeah.
That's amazing. But it makes you think, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if someone like Lugavere's mom was showing symptoms in her 50s, what does that tell us about how dementia actually develops?
Well, it kind of blows up this myth that dementia is just like a sudden thing, right?
Well,
like you just
like you turn 80 and, oh, I have dementia.
Right, exactly.
The truth is, it's a process that can take, decades. And you're having these brain changes way before any symptoms show up, really.
So by the time someone is diagnosed, there's already been a lot of damage.
A lot of damage has been done, yeah.
So it's not like a sudden explosion, it's more of a slow burn, right?
Yeah.
And I guess that explains why so many Alzheimer's drug trials fail, because they're trying to put out a fire that's been smoldering for years, maybe.
Exactly. It's almost like trying to save a building that's already halfway gone.
Right.
Right. That's why the focus now is really shifting hard towards prevention, catching it early, those warning signs, and intervening before it's too late.
So how much of dementia is actually preventable? Like, is it all in our genes, or do we actually have some control over this?
Well, that's what makes this really interesting. Research shows that up to 40% of dementia cases are linked to things we call modifiable risk factors. So things we can change, lifestyle choices, exposure to stuff in the environment, even some medications. Wait, 40%?
Yeah.
That's huge.
That's the big chunk.
So we're not just like helpless bystanders to our genetic destiny.
No, not at all.
Okay, so let's unpack some of these modifiable risk factors.
Right.
What are the big ones we need to be aware of?
Well, obesity is a big one. You see, as your waist circumference increases, total brain volume decreases.
So that spare tire is not just affecting my gene size, it's actually shrinking my brain.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. It's pretty straightforward,
Okay, so it's not just about how much fat we have, it's where we carry it too.
Right, yeah. So we're talking about visceral fat, the kind that's around your organs. It releases these inflammatory chemicals called cytokines, and those can really mess up brain cells.
Okay.
And even the fat that's just under your skin, that's the cutaneous fat, even that can be a problem because it's linked to problems with insulin signaling, which can lead to type 2 diabetes. And that brings us to another big risk factor for dementia.
Diabetes, yeah. I mean, that's a big one, right? I know it affects blood sugar, but what does that have to do with the brain?
Think about your blood vessels like a highway system. They deliver, all the nutrients and oxygen to every part of your body, including your brain, right?
Mm-hmm.
High blood sugar, which you see in diabetes, that damages those highways. So it makes it harder for your brain to get what it needs.
Oh, so it's like a traffic jam in your brain.
Yeah. In fact, the link between diabetes and dementia is so strong that some researchers are calling Alzheimer's type 3 diabetes.
Wow. I never heard that before. Type 3.
Yeah.
That's a pretty stark way to put it. Makes you rethink that extra dessert.
Absolutely. And here's another one that people often miss. Hypertension, high blood pressure.
Yeah. I know that's bad for my heart, but what's the connection to dementia?
It goes back to the blood vessels. High blood pressure puts so much stress on them. It causes damage. It reduces blood flow to your brain. It's like trying to water your garden with a hose that's got holes in it. Your plants aren't going to grow so well.
Not going to thrive.
Yeah.
So keeping our blood pressure in check is important, not just for our heart health, but for our brain health too.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a really cool study actually called the Sprint Mind trial that showed that if you aggressively manage hypertension, you can significantly reduce the risk of cognitive decline.
That's good. That's encouraging.
Right.
It sounds like we're starting to see a pattern here, right? A lot of these risk factors are kind of interconnected.
You're right. And it really shows how important it is to take a whole body approach to health. What's good for your heart is good for your brain and vice versa.
Makes sense.
But, it's not all about what's going on inside. Our environment plays a role too. For instance, hearing loss is a risk factor for dementia that's being talked about more and more.
Hearing loss. That's interesting. I wouldn't have thought those two were connected.
Yeah, so we need more research on this, but it seems like hearing loss can lead to social isolation and depression, both of which we know can increase dementia risk. Think about it. If you can't hear well, you might avoid social situations, and that can really impact your brain.
So addressing hearing loss isn't just about, quality of life. It could actually be a key part of dementia prevention.
Exactly, yeah. And speaking of the environment, there's more and more evidence that chronic exposure to air pollution, those little particles called particulate matter, can increase the risk of dementia too.
Air pollution. I always knew it was bad for my lungs, but I never thought about it affecting my brain.
Yeah, it's scary. Studies show that long-term exposure to air pollution can cause inflammation and damage in the brain, a lot like what you see in Alzheimer's disease.
Oh, wow. So it's not just what we're putting in our bodies, it's about the air we're breathing, too.
Yeah, it's both. And unfortunately, there's more. Exposure to certain toxins in the environment can also make dementia more likely.
Okay, let's break that down. What kind of toxins are we talking about here?
Things like industrial solvents, they're in dry cleaning, metal degreasing, even some older medical procedures. There's trichloroethylene, PCE, that's been linked to a 500% increased risk of Parkinson's disease.
500%. That's crazy. So where else might we come into contact with this TCE?
Well, you want to make sure your dry cleaner uses environmentally friendly methods, and keep in mind that TCE can get into groundwater. So if you have well water, that's something to think about.
Yeah.
It's kind of wild how things we did in the past can still affect us today.
Right. Never even thought about that. Are there any other environmental bad guys we need to watch out for?
Herbicides and pesticides they're a big one because they can actually get past the blood-brain barrier when you breathe them in. So your brain's getting directly exposed to these chemicals. A decline in your sense of smell, which can be an early sign of cognitive problems, might be linked to damage from these toxins.
So those chemicals aren't just bad for bugs. They could be harming our brains too. This is starting to paint a pretty clear picture. What we expose our bodies to, both through our diet and our environment, really impacts our brain health.
Exactly. It's all connected. And it's not just external factors. Our mental health matters too. Untreated depression, for example, that's another modifiable risk factor for dementia.
That makes sense. I mean, I know depression can really take a toll on our well-being, but I hadn't thought about the connection to dementia.
It just goes to show how connected our physical and mental health really are. Taking care of your emotional well-being is just as important as watching your diet or exercising. Speaking of things we need to watch out for, there's one more category of modifiable risk factors: certain medications.
Oh, okay. Now this is interesting. Which medications are we talking about here?
Some common ones, like certain allergy meds, sleep aids, and even some over-the-counter drugs, they have what's called anticholinergic properties. And when you use them for a long time, they've been linked to an increased risk of dementia.
So something as simple as taking, an allergy pill every day could be putting my brain health at risk. That's a little unsettling.
It's something to keep in mind. It's always a good idea to talk to your doctor about any medications you're taking regularly, especially if you're worried about dementia. There might be other options that are safer for your brain. So we've talked a lot about things to avoid, but let's switch gears a bit. Let's talk about things we can do to protect our brains. And one of the most powerful tools we have is our diet.
Okay, so let's talk food. In his book, Genius Foods, Max Lugavere is a huge fan of whole foods. He basically says, stick to the perimeter of the supermarket. That's where you find the good stuff. Mm. And he's pretty firm about limiting ultra-processed foods. All the packaged stuff with a zillion ingredients.
Yeah. If you couldn't make it in your own kitchen, it's probably not doing your brain any favors.
Probably not. And this brings us to a point that might surprise some people. Red meat. Lugavere actually considers red meat a health food.
He thinks it's gotten a bad rap. He says a lot of those studies linking it to health problems are based on shaky data. It's correlation, not causation. And he makes the point that red meat's a great source of nutrients that are often missing in modern diets.
So what are we talking about here? Protein? Iron?
Yeah, exactly. Protein, B vitamins, iron, and even phytonutrients from the plants the cows eat. Lugavere thinks for a lot of people, red meat can be a valuable part of a healthy diet.
Okay, so red meat, villain or hero.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like the jury's still out, but it's definitely a conversation worth having. Now, this next one might sound a little extreme, but Lugavere also talks about the potential benefits of the carnivore diet, especially for people with autoimmune conditions.
Yeah, he sees it as a way to kind of reset your system. By cutting out all plant foods, you can figure out if you have any food sensitivities, things that might be causing problems.
So it's kind of a detective's approach.
Exactly.
You eliminate everything and then slowly reintroduce things one by one to see if they cause a reaction.
Dr. Peterson himself has talked about how the carnivore diet really helped him and his daughter. And it wasn't just temporary. They saw long-term improvements.
Pretty remarkable. So even though it sounds pretty extreme, there might be times when a carnivore diet could be beneficial, even for a short period.
Lugavere suggests trying it for 3 months, with your doctor's supervision, of course, especially if you have chronic health issues that haven't gotten better with other treatments. It could be a way to pinpoint those trigger foods and get to the root of the problem.
It makes you wonder, right?
Mm-hmm.
Could cutting out certain foods, even temporarily, be the key to better health for some people?
That's the question.
Yeah.
But it's important to remember that Lugavere doesn't think there's one right diet for everyone. He believes the ideal diet is different for each person. It depends on your needs, your genes, your health.
So there's no magic bullet when it comes to diet?
Not really, no.
No.
However, he stresses that a foundation of whole foods, both plants and animals, that's crucial for everyone. And that brings us to another food that's been unfairly demonized: eggs.
Ah, yes, the humble egg.
Yeah.
They've gone from villain to hero in recent years. I remember when we were all told to limit eggs because of the cholesterol. Now they're a superfood for the brain. What happened?
It's a great example of how nutrition advice can change as we learn more. What we thought was bad is now good. Eggs are nutritional powerhouses, especially for brain health.
So what makes eggs so special for our brains?
They have choline. It's vital, and it's actually a building block for acetylcholine, a neurotransmitter involved in learning and memory. And here's the kicker. Studies show that eating just 1 or 2 eggs a week can actually significantly reduce your risk of Alzheimer's.
Wow, so those old warnings about cholesterol were basically wrong.
Not completely, but it turns out that dietary cholesterol, like what you find in eggs, doesn't really affect our blood cholesterol levels as much as we used to think. And the benefits of eggs, they far outweigh any potential risks.
This is why it's so important to stay updated on the science, right? So we can make good decisions about our health and not get caught up in old information that might not be accurate anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. Things are always changing.
So we've talked about the power of whole foods. We've kind of debunked some myths about red meat and eggs. But I'm curious, what does a brain health expert like Max Lugavere actually eat on a daily basis? Does he follow a specific diet plan?
He doesn't really advocate for any one diet, but he does talk about, getting enough nutrients and cutting way back on processed foods. Yeah. He's all about balance and, focusing on those whole unprocessed foods from both animal and plant sources.
Got it. So what might a typical day of eating look like for him?
Well, from what he writes and what he says in interviews, it seems like he starts with a protein-rich breakfast. He's mentioned liking eggs, so maybe a couple of eggs cooked in olive oil with some spinach and avocado.
Okay, that sounds delicious and brain boosting. What about lunch and dinner?
For lunch, he might have a big salad, with lots of different colored veggies, some grilled chicken or fish, and a healthy fat, like olive oil or avocado again.
Okay.
And then for dinner, maybe a grass-fed steak with roasted vegetables, or a salmon fillet with quinoa and some steamed broccoli.
Yeah, it sounds like he really walks the walk when it comes to eating for brain health. But what about those of us who, have a little sweet tooth after dinner? Is dessert totally off limits?
He's not totally against it. He believes in moderation, Enjoy those treats once in a while, but instead of grabbing those processed sweets that are, full of sugar and fake ingredients, he suggests going for naturally sweet stuff, like berries with some whipped cream or a piece of dark chocolate.
So it's not about deprivation. It's about making smart choices and finding healthy alternatives that still satisfy those cravings.
Yeah, for sure. And he really emphasizes that food should be, enjoyable. It's not just fuel. It's a pleasure, and it's a way to connect with people.
Okay, so we've got the lowdown on what to eat.
Yeah.
And let's talk about what to avoid. We touched on ultra-processed foods earlier, but are there any specific foods or ingredients that are particularly bad for our brain health?
Ultra-processed foods are definitely the biggest offenders. Those packaged snacks, sugary drinks, refined grains, and processed meats. They often have, tons of added sugar, unhealthy fats, artificial ingredients, preservatives. It's like they're all calories, no nutrients. And they contribute to inflammation and oxidative stress in the body, which can really damage brain cells.
Yeah, it's kind of scary how much of that stuff is marketed to kids. Those colorful cereals and sugary snacks are almost like designed to be addictive.
Yeah, it's true. And it's not just kids who are vulnerable. These ultra-processed foods, they're made to hijack our taste buds and trigger those reward centers in our brain, making it hard to resist.
So it's a double whammy. They're bad for our physical health, and they can be psychologically addictive.
Yeah, it's a recipe for trouble. And it's not just the obvious stuff like, candy bars and soda. You got to watch out for hidden sugar and processed ingredients in things like bread, yogurt, even salad dressings.
So reading labels is key. It's amazing how much sugar and other junk can be hiding in seemingly healthy foods.
It really is. And it just shows how important it is to cook at home more often, where you can control what goes in your food.
Right. Okay, so we've got a pretty good handle on what to eat and what to avoid. Now, let's go back to the carnivore diet for a sec. We talked about its potential as an elimination diet.
Yeah.
But it does sound pretty extreme. Are there any situations where you might actually recommend it?
Well, as we said before, it can be a good way to figure out if you're sensitive to certain foods, especially for people with autoimmune conditions or those who have, persistent digestive issues. By basically going back to basics, eating mostly meat, you can see how your body reacts when certain foods are taken away.
So it's kind of a process of elimination.
Exactly.
So you remove all the potential triggers.
Yeah.
And then you slowly add foods back in one at a time to see if they cause a reaction.
Right. And while a long-term carnivore diet isn't for everyone, a short-term trial, maybe 3 months under a doctor's care, could be a good option for some folks.
It's definitely not something to jump into lightly, but it's an interesting thing to consider for people who are dealing with chronic health issues that haven't responded to other approaches. Now, for someone who's ready to make changes to their diet to boost their brain health, where's a good place to start?
One of the easiest and most effective things you can do is just gradually cut back on those ultra-processed foods.
Yeah.
Start by, swapping out those sugary cereals, packaged snacks, and convenience meals for whole, unprocessed options.
So instead of that bowl of cereal, maybe have some eggs with avocado and berries.
Exactly. And instead of grabbing a bag of chips for a snack, have a handful of nuts, some sliced veggies with hummus, a piece of fruit.
Small changes can make a big difference.
For sure. And don't try to change everything overnight. It's better to make gradual changes that you can actually stick with.
Right. Makes sense. Slow and steady wins the race, right? Now, speaking of long-term strategies, what about supplements? Do they have a role to play in dementia prevention?
Max Lugavere doesn't talk specifically about supplements in this particular conversation, but it's definitely something worth looking into. Okay,
so let's dive into that. Are there any supplements that have been shown to benefit brain health?
Yeah, there are a few. Omega-3 fatty acids, for instance, they're essential for brain function, and a lot of people just don't get enough from their diet.
Right, especially if they're not, if they're not eating fatty fish regularly. So supplementing with fish oil or algae-based omega-3s, that could be helpful.
It's something to think about, yeah. Another important one is vitamin D. It's involved in brain cell growth and communication.
We know vitamin D deficiency is pretty common, right? Especially for people who live in colder climates or don't get a lot of sun exposure.
Exactly. So getting your vitamin D levels checked and maybe taking a supplement if you need to is a good idea. And there's another supplement that's getting a lot of buzz for its brain benefits, curcumin.
Curcumin, that's the active compound in turmeric, right? The spice that makes curry yellow.
You got it. Curcumin is it's a powerful antioxidant and anti-inflammatory compound that some studies have shown can actually improve memory and cognitive function.
So adding turmeric to our diet or taking a curcumin supplement could be a good way to give our brain an extra layer of protection.
It's definitely an exciting area of research, and the early results are really promising. Of course, you should always talk to your doctor before starting any new supplements, especially if you're taking other medications.
This is all so fascinating. I'm starting to see that dementia prevention is kind of a multi-pronged approach, right? It involves not just diet, but lifestyle factors, environmental awareness, and even potentially, supplementation.
You're getting it.
It's like we're piecing together a puzzle, and each piece, diet, lifestyle, environment, mental health, all of it, it plays a role in creating that bigger picture of brain health.
I like that. Yeah, it's a good way to think about it.
Yeah.
And just like a puzzle, if you're missing pieces or if some pieces are damaged, the whole picture suffers.
And we're not just, standing by watching this happen. We can choose the pieces, right?
Yeah.
We can create a vibrant, healthy picture for ourselves.
Exactly. It's a journey. It takes, effort and awareness, but the payoff is huge. A sharper mind, a healthier body, a more fulfilling life.
This has been amazing. It's pretty empowering to realize that we're not, just at the mercy of our genes or the environment. We can actually do things to protect our brain health as we age.
Yeah, it's a message of hope, and one of the things that Lugavere talks about is starting early. We tend to think of dementia as an old age thing, but really the foundation for a healthy brain is built throughout our lives.
It's like that saying, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is today.
Exactly. It's never too late to start, making those positive changes. Our brains are incredibly adaptable. They can change throughout our lives. We call that plasticity.
So even if we haven't always made the best choices, we can still turn things around and improve our brain health going forward.
Absolutely. And the sooner the better. Every healthy choice we make is like putting money in the bank, a brain health savings account.
I love that analogy. It makes it so clear that these lifestyle choices aren't, they're not a punishment, it's an investment.
We're investing in our future.
Exactly.
Now, we've talked a lot about diet, but what about other things? What else can we do to support our brain?
Well, exercise is a big one. We all know that physical activity is good for our bodies, but it's also incredibly beneficial for our brains.
Oh, yeah. Exercise is it's like medicine for your brain. It increases blood flow, stimulates new brain cell growth. And it helps protect against cognitive decline.
So getting my heart rate up is good for my brain too.
Absolutely. Try to aim for at least 30 minutes of moderate intensity exercise on most days of the week. That could be brisk walking, swimming, dancing, anything that gets you moving.
Doesn't have to be, hardcore training at the gym. Just regular movement.
Right, yeah. And it's not just about, physical exercise. Mental exercise is important too.
So we need to challenge our brains just like we challenge our bodies.
That's the idea. Engaging in mentally stimulating activities, it helps to keep your brain sharp,
So what kind of activities are we talking about here?
Anything that makes you think and makes you learn. Reading, puzzles, learning a new language, playing a musical instrument.
Right.
Even just having good conversations with friends. All of these things can help build cognitive reserve and protect against dementia.
It sounds like variety is key. We want to challenge our brains in different ways.
Yeah, keep them guessing. And it doesn't have to be, super complicated or take a lot of time. Even something simple like doing a crossword puzzle each day can help.
So it's about finding activities that we enjoy and making them part of our daily routine.
Yeah.
It's about making mental fitness a priority, just like physical fitness.
Exactly. Now, we can't talk about brain health without talking about sleep. It's absolutely essential for our physical and mental well-being, and it's a big part of dementia prevention.
I know I always feel much sharper after a good night's sleep. But what's actually going on in our brains when we sleep?
It's like a nightly cleaning crew for the brain, While you're sleeping, your brain is clearing out toxins, consolidating memories, and getting ready for the next day.
So skimping on sleep is kind of like letting the trash pile up in our brains.
That's one way to think about it. Chronic sleep deprivation can really lead to cognitive decline, memory problems, and an increased risk of dementia.
Okay, so how much sleep do we actually need to keep our brains healthy?
Most adults need somewhere between 7 and 9 hours of good quality sleep each night. And it's not just about, the number of hours, it's about the quality. Make sure your bedroom's dark, quiet, cool. Avoid caffeine and alcohol before bed. And try to get into a regular sleep-wake routine so your body clock is on point.
So creating a healthy sleep environment and prioritizing good sleep hygiene, those are essential for brain health. Now, we've talked about exercise, mental stimulation, sleep. Are there any other lifestyle factors we should consider?
Stress management is a big one. Chronic stress can really do a number on your brain, leading to inflammation, hormone imbalances, even structural changes.
So those deadlines, those daily hassles, they're not just affecting my mood. They could actually be damaging my brain.
It's true. Chronic stress can take a toll on your cognitive function and increase your risk of dementia.
So how do we manage stress effectively?
There are tons of things you can do. Exercise, for one, is a great stress reliever. Spending time in nature, practicing mindfulness or meditation, doing things you enjoy, connecting with loved ones.
So it's about finding healthy ways to cope. Learning to manage the stress instead of letting it manage you.
Right. And don't hesitate to reach out for help if you need it. If you're dealing with chronic stress or anxiety, there are therapists and counselors who specialize in stress management techniques. They can really help you develop, personalized strategies.
This is starting to paint a really clear picture, right? What a brain healthy lifestyle looks like. Nourishing our brains with healthy food, challenging them with mental stimulation, giving them rest with quality sleep, and managing stress effectively.
That's it.
It's about taking a holistic approach to our well-being, understanding that our brain health is connected to everything else.
Yeah, it's all connected.
It's about living in a way that supports both our physical and mental health, knowing that a healthy body and a healthy mind, they go together.
For sure. And remember, it's not about being perfect. It's about progress. Yeah. Every small step you take toward a brain-healthy lifestyle is a step in the right direction.
Now, we've covered a ton of information today.
I have.
But before we wrap up, I want to make sure we've hit the key takeaways. What are the most important things we want our listeners to remember from this deep dive?
I think the biggest takeaway is that dementia is not an inevitable part of getting older. We have a lot more control over our brain health than we think.
We're not, helpless passengers on this journey. We're the drivers.
We are, and while genes do play a part, up to 40% of dementia cases are due to things we can change. So we have the power to really lower our risk.
So what are the most impactful things, the most impactful changes we can make to protect our brain health?
It really comes down to living a brain-healthy lifestyle. That means eating a good diet, moving your body, managing stress, getting enough sleep, and staying connected with people.
So it's about living a life that supports our overall well-being, knowing that what's good for our body is good for our brain too.
Absolutely. And it's important to remember that prevention starts early. We can't, wait till we're in our 60s or 70s to start thinking about our brain health.
It's a lifelong journey.
It is.
And even if we haven't always made the best choices, it's never too late to start making changes.
Yeah, our brains they're amazing. They can bounce back and we can make a difference at any age.
That's a really encouraging message.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that we're not just stuck with whatever hand we're dealt. We have choices. We can choose to live a life that supports our brain health and lowers our risk of dementia.
I agree. It's about taking control and creating a better future for yourself.
It's been a truly amazing deep dive. I feel so inspired to put all of this knowledge to use. But before we go, I do have one last question for you.
Okay, shoot.
In all of Max Lugavere's research and his personal experience, was there anything that really surprised him about dementia?
He often talks about how surprised he was by just how widespread the dementia epidemic is. It's affecting millions of people all over the world, and it's only going to get worse as the population ages.
It's a bit of a sobering thought, but it really emphasizes how urgent it is to take action now. We can't wait until it's too late.
Yeah, we have to, raise awareness, talk about how to prevent it, and really change the way we think about dementia from crisis management to proactive prevention.
It's a call to action.
Sure.
We all have a role to play in protecting ourselves, our loved ones, and even future generations from this disease.
I agree. And I think it's a message of hope and empowerment, and one that needs to be shared, widely.
This deep dive has been packed with info, but I'm wondering, in all this talk about prevention, is there anything you'd like to explore further?
I think it would be really cool to learn more about the gut-brain connection. We know that the bacteria in our gut, the microbiome, has a big impact on our brain health.
Right.
But there's still so much that we don't know.
Yeah, the gut microbiome is like a hidden world, and it's really only recently that we've started to understand how complex it is and how much influence it has.
And there's so much new research coming out all the time. I think exploring this connection could reveal even more secrets about how to really optimize our brain health.
Like we've opened a door to a whole new world of possibilities.
Nice.
And I wouldn't be surprised if you find yourself, reaching for some fermented foods or prebiotic fiber after all this.
You never know.
Now that you mention it, a kombucha does sound good right now.
There you go. And remember, every step you take toward a healthier gut is a step towards a healthier brain.
That's a great point. This has been a fantastic deep dive into dementia prevention, and I'm feeling inspired and empowered to take charge of my own brain health. But before we sign off, I want to leave you with one final thought.
Okay, I'm listening.
We've talked a lot about those things we can change, the modifiable risk factors for dementia, but what about the things we can't change, like our genes, our family history? Are we destined to follow in our parents' footsteps if they struggled with cognitive decline?
That's a question a lot of people worry about, for sure. But here's the good news. Even though we can't change our genes, we're not just controlled by them.
So there is hope, even if dementia runs in the family.
Definitely. Having a family history of dementia does increase your risk, but it doesn't mean you're guaranteed to get it. Your genes are not they're not your destiny.
This is where that idea of epigenetics comes in, right?
Exactly. Epigenetics is it's basically the study of how our environment and the things we do, our lifestyle choices, can actually influence how our genes work. You can think of it like this. Your genes are like a blueprint, but your lifestyle choices decide how that blueprint is used, how it's expressed.
So even if we inherit genes that make us more likely to get dementia, we can still make choices that lessen their impact.
Exactly. By living a brain-healthy lifestyle, we can essentially turn off those bad genes and turn on the good ones.
That's amazing. It means we have a lot more power than we thought to shape our own future.
That's the power of epigenetics.
Even when it comes to our genes.
Right. And that's what's so exciting about all of this. We're not just passive victims of our biology. We have agency. We can make choices that actually change our bodies, our brains, and create a better, healthier future for ourselves.
This is such a message of hope. It's a reminder that we're not helpless, even if we have a genetic predisposition.
Exactly. And it's something I hope you'll remember.
I definitely will. Now, I know we could keep talking about this, but we've gone over a lot today, and I think you're ready to take this information and start making those positive changes.
I think so too.
Yeah.
And remember, every step you take toward a brain-healthy lifestyle is a step toward a brighter future.
Couldn't have said it better myself. This has been a fantastic deep dive, and I'm so glad you joined us. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and keep those brains healthy.